As the effects of climate change become more and more apparent, the Arctic is one of the places where that hits home. Warming at twice the rate as the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, the Arctic Ocean loses an average of 32,000 square miles of ice per year. Not only does this loss of ice cause tremendous disadvantages to the many organisms in this ecosystem, but it also allows for easier access to shipping routes and to previously untapped oil and natural gas reserves. The Arctic has 25% of the Earth's remaining natural gas and oil reserves, which has caused many countries of the region to become more and more invested in the area. Shipping routes, many of which have been difficult to cross previously, are becoming more accessible. In the Canadian Arctic alone, shipping traffic nearly tripled from 1990 to 2015, with the distance traveled by these vessels increasing from 350,000 kilometers to 900,000 kilometers. The increase of shipping in this region not only increases the amount of human activity in the ocean, but also the amount of noise in the area. Two of the organisms most vulnerable to these changes are the narwhal and beluga whale. The narwhal, a whale known for its massive tusk, and the beluga whale, its melon-headed and highly vocal cousin, are two sound-dependent animals who have been recorded to be affected in a myriad of ways that permanently damage their behavior. Not only have these whales been recorded to be disturbed by the ships themselves, but they are also being negatively impacted by the ship noise. As these whales have a broad hearing range, they can hear these vessels well and from large distances away. The noise coming from these ships impact their communication, mating behavior, navigation and orientation, and their abilities to both search for prey and sense predators. The loud and excessive noise created by these ships can also hurt these animals and in some cases cause hearing loss. An increased and continuous amount of disruption in these behaviors will result in long-term effects that will be very damaging to these two whales and their corresponding ecosystems. There are many ways to combat and counteract the effects the increase in shipping is having on these two whales. The best long-term solution is to combat climate change. To help bring back this ecosystem to what it once was, the effects of climate change, such as ocean acidification, the melting of the sea ice, and the warming of the ocean, must be fought. To do that, we must cut down our global greenhouse gas emissions, which will require not only everyday people to become more eco-friendly and reduce the emissions they make, but we also need to take on the large corporations causing the majority of greenhouse gas emissions. Since 1988, the top 25 companies producing greenhouse gas emissions released 51% of all human-related emissions, and the top 100 companies produced 71% of all emissions. Though it will take decades for the impacts of climate change to completely stop and even longer to reverse itself, the sooner we stop our emissions, the sooner our Earth can begin to heal. Another smaller scale but equally important way to help these whales is through national and international policy. Many belugas and narwhals inhabit waters that would fall under the 12-mile boundary for the United States, Canada, Russia, Norway, and Greenland. If these countries would enact policies that would force ships to either avoid some of the areas completely or change the speed and amount of noise they are emitting while in the area, many of the effects caused by these disturbances could be avoided. Creating barriers in international waters would be trickier, but treaties and agreements could be made for independent companies and government-owned ships to avoid disturbing the waters in which these whales and other marine organisms live. One way for these actions to be achieved is by using public awareness to the advantage. While there are ways that increasing public awareness for this issue can backfire if there is not a laid-out plan involved, if scientists and activists are able to raise this issue more to the public and cause people to become more educated on the issue, the results could be tremendous. As shown by other efforts in the past, including other campaigns for whales, such as the Save the Whales program, it is possible for public opinion on an issue such as this one to sway the way countries react to these issues. We must remember that if left unchecked, the amount of shipping in the Arctic will only increase, and the harmful effects ships enact on narwhals and beluga whales will continue. As we enter such a vital period in the fight for conservation and against harmful practices, we must also remember that the effects these harmful practices have on animals and their ecosystems are not isolated. These whales, and in turn their ecosystems and the ocean as a whole, are vital to the human race and our planet. In order to help ourselves, we must also help the world around us.